Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's design challenge is a personal one for you guys. You're going to be designing your own name but in 3 dimensions using a graphic technique we call oblique drawing. You're going to need a pencil, HB as usual, a sheet of A4 paper, possibly a ruler, and if you make any mistakes or you think you're going to make a mistake, bring yourself an eraser. Let's get started. Okay, so like I said before, we're going to do the oblique style of design today. And for those of you that have forgotten what that is, or you're not sure, if I draw a flat line like this, and then I draw a box on top of it, like that, this angle here is 45 degrees. Let's show you that. So it's flat, like that. And then this line here, technically, is also at 45 degrees, like that. And then this line over here, you guessed it, is at 45 degrees. Now all I have to do from there is draw this line parallel, and then from here draw straight down like that line, and then I've created that 3-dimensional cuboid shape. Okay, so let's set up with our HB pencil. Now of course the first thing you're going to want to do is pop your name down. So there's me setting myself up there, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and I'm going to keep turning the page slightly so you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to give myself a little box like this. There we go. Now if you've got a ruler at home, it's really handy to do that, but if you're just practicing, then by all means do what I'm doing. I'm doing mine freehand, so if you want to go freehand, that's fine. But what I would suggest is you need to try and keep your shapes, your rectangles, the same width. That's really important. Otherwise your name's going to look a little bit odd, a little bit strange. Now of course I can again cheat a little bit here. You guys will need to measure this with a ruler. I get the benefit of using the digital media, so I can just copy those over like that. And then I'll, just for sake of ease, I will copy and paste those again. I'll just put another one over there like that, and then I can just erase this one out of the way. Right, now I do need to try and make sure that they are equally spaced apart. It would be a little bit unfortunate if they weren't, so I'm just going to... So you guys have got the benefit of having one sheet of paper here, I don't. So I have to merge my pieces of paper together, so that's not quite where I wanted it to be, so I'm just going to move it over a little bit there. That'll do. Right, now, let's get started into the actual sketch. In fact, I'll just lower this down a little bit, so you might see me messing around with this a little bit. Don't be worried about that. Let's just grab that bit, bring it down, and I'll show you why I bring it down in a moment. Pull those lines off at 45 degrees. Now, the D, again, we can just sort of come in here and just sketch this D out. Now I'm just making sure that I'm staying within the box. As long as I'm inside that box, we're going to be okay for our sketch. Now I'm going to make mine quite nice and big and bold like this. There we go. And then I can come up here like that with a nice dark line. Like that. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. Now, we're going to make this 3D by using that 45-degree angle like that. Now, it's a little bit tricky because you've got to imagine that that's a box, so this cube down like that. It's the same here. So, as long as I can capture that 45 degree, and if I shade it, let's zoom right in so you can see what I'm doing. So if I shade it really lightly, like that, and there it is, it just drops in there. A little bit sneaky, but you can see it if you're careful. And then the trick here is to keep these like train tracks. These need to be parallel, so I just need to be following this all the way around like that till it gets back to this line here. So just copy that line, and you see how now that I've got the stroke, now that I've got the line, I can go around it nice and dark Beautiful, like that. And just hook this around a little bit more. There we go. And there's my D. Now I can even bring this down here. And then 45 degrees again, like that. And then this will start to curve up like that. There we go. There's our first three-dimensional shape. Now we've got that there as a D. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade this in there. I'm going to shade this in as well. Add a little bit of shadow. That gives us some depth to our drawing. Now hopefully you've just come off the back of our design ideas for the toothbrush, the ergonomic grips. So you'll know all the graphic techniques I taught you in that. Making sure to shade in one direction. Okay, so what we do have to be careful of now is making sure that this thickness is the same on the next letter. So just in case I've forgotten, we're doing a capital A now, so I'm going to come up and I'm going to sketch this round like that. It doesn't matter if I make a mistake because it's an idea, not a finished part. Now ideally in a perfect world I want my A to line up with this, so that's going to go in there like that. There, like a little window. And then to make it the capital A, I can do another little window down below like that. And you see how I've kept those in line, or very close to being kept in line, yeah? Now that's the key to a bit of something called typography, where we make our letters perfect and in line with each other. Now I can't do it here because there's nothing to grab hold of, but I know from the corner that that's my angle, so I can do my little sketching technique till I get to the line, like that. I can't really see much going off there, and then I can even come across like this. Now here we go, let's bring it down, let's bring it round. So I'm very careful here how I'm bringing this down like this. Now let's meet it with a 45-degree angle like that, so I know where to go. And see, it crosses down. Now a lot of students think they have to go out like this and join up. They don't do that. You don't need to. Just cross through it like that. Just keep this line on that path and you'll be okay. That's just there as a guide. Okay, 45 degree, 45 degree, and then we go back up again like that. Beautiful. Yeah, there we go. Little angle there like that. And again, let's add that little bit of shadow in there. Really make it stand out. Notice I left the bottom there because it's part of the ground. I don't need to include that in my shadow. Now, shade, 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 all the way down the side. I'm leaving all these horrible, horrible gaps in it, but oh, wait till I get to the bottom, then I come back up again, and I carry on until I close some of these gaps up, making my work look neat. Now, we're going to keep this under 15 minutes, hopefully, but you guys have got 30 minutes, remember, for our challenge. 30 minutes of work here. So you can make yours look the bee's knees. Excellent. Now just in case I've forgotten again, I can go have a look what I'm doing. Now because this has got a shallow curve here, I'm going to do another shallow curve underneath. So almost like I'm doing an upside down A. Now you might be thinking, oh crumbs, what the devil are you doing that for, sir? Well, the reason is I want all my letters to look like they come from the same group of letters, essentially. I want them to think that they're part of the family. So like I did here, I'm going to do the same thing just here like that. And that's going to create my V, my top of my V. Almost looks a bit like a shield. So there you go. Now some of you might have a really easy go of this because you might have a name like Davy or Smith, which is quite short, or some of you might be Hodgkinson or I think of another name, it's quite long, Wellington or something like that. So you're going to be spending a little bit more time, I suppose, but it's all good practice, all good practice. 45-degree angles off the sides like that. Some of them are longer than others, doesn't matter, because again they're just guides for that parallel line to drop on. Look at that. There we go. And then drop it down. Now this is a little bit tricky because we're going to do this bit down here now. So we're going to come up like this, and we're just going to meet it on the way. Just going to meet it on the way round. There you go. And there they're just joined up like that. And this bit comes down and curves like that. Fantastic. There we go. And there are our little letters in 3D, shading all the way. I might just darken that up a little bit just to sort of say, you know what, look, I'm here, this is the edge. This is my edge, don't forget about me. There we go. And I'm going to shade up here like this. Now, nobody's sketches are going to be perfect, but they're ideas. They're a way in which you can share an idea or a concept or a design through the use of sketching and drawing. You know, I'm not very pleased with that V actually. Do you know what I could have done? I could have brought it down to there, couldn't I? Shall we do that? Shall we? Let's make an amend. Look, I've made a mistake. I'm just going to show you that it doesn't matter. And you know what? I'm just going to make a change. And that's going to be okay. It's okay to make those mistakes. And you might be thinking, oh, so how do you rectify that? But don't worry about it. Look, I'm just going to curve it back like that. Not a problem. It's not a problem at all. Look. Okay? And that already looks better, even with the mistake involved. It still looks better than if I'd left it before. And I'm a bit more pleased with that now. Very good. Okay, now on to the E. Now, because this is a capital letter, this is going to be a capital letter as well. Some students do make that mistake. Try and decide early doors. Are you going to make it a capital letter or are you going to make it a lowercase letter? Now, see, I'm going to nick that line there, like that. Now, I'll tell you for why. I can bring this part in like that. And that can be part of my E. Maybe stylize it and double this thickness. And so I've got, instead of having one of those, I've got double the thickness now there. So instead of just having that one, I've got double thickness. Just makes my little idea a little bit more interesting, you know? And that's what we're all about, making things interesting. 45 degree, 45 degree. 45 degree, 45 degree. Wherever I can find an angle, I'm going to find a 45 degree. Now if I go too fast, don't be afraid to pause me. And or even rewind me if you need to. Go back and have another look and see what I'm up to. Sometimes I do go a little bit quick. But that again, the speed of things happens when you practice. You've got to practice every week. The best illustrators that I know... Oh, running out of battery space. Well, will we get it done in time? That's the question. The best designers and illustrators that I know practice all the time. They practice every day. Every day they do a little drawing of something. Something that interests them. Something that they like. There we go. So there we go. We've got Dave. So we're nearly there. And let's just have a spin around and have a look at that from a different angle. Whoops. Yeah, a big spin. Sometimes it's nice to have a look at your work from a distance. So take your drawing and hold it at arm's length and then have a look at it and then bring it back in again, because you can sometimes get lost in the shapes and the drawings. Now what am I doing now? Y. Okay. So again I'm going to copy the V. Now you see how I always put these little marks on. And I think my drawings tend to look alright in the end. So having little guidelines is not a problem. But it's encouraged in fact. Now, probably a ruler would be better there, but still. They're just there to make sure that I'm getting everything in the right spot. And then, like I've done with this little bit here, I'm going to put it there, probably for the Y, I think. Keep in line with that. There's my Y. Lovely. Right. So, let's go flesh it out a little bit. I'll curve this round a bit, why not? Give it a bit of a curve. Although, mind you, it's quite straight on the E, so let's maybe not do that. There we go. And then what was it again? Oh yes, that's right. 45 degrees, 45 degrees, 45 degrees, 45 degrees. Now you can make these longer if you want to make them a little bit easier for you to see. Remember, we're trying to keep in line, so you could put a ruler on there if you wanted to and just draw it across. That's a nice way of doing it actually. Like that. And this, oops, there we go. Bring that down. And then down we come. There's a little bit on the thick side there. Let's bring it down a little bit. There we go. Down, 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 down. Remember it crosses through there. And I go over it nice and dark. There's a little 45 degree there, a little bit of shadow. Don't forget that little guy there. Let's sneak that in as well. There we go. And then we shade, 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 shade. Like that. Shade, 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 shade. Like this, all the way down like that. All the way down to the bottom. There we go. And let's just go back up there again. Shade in the same direction so you don't make it look scruffy. Think of your presentation and all that. There we go. And then, boom. We zoom out. There's our 3D lettering. Fantastic. Okay. So, I suppose if you really wanted to at this stage, you could we could bob in a bit of colour, couldn't we? Now, I think I get the benefit of doing things like this, which means I can shade mine in really quickly, whereas you guys would have to shade yours in with some pencil techniques. So there you go. There it is. A little bit wonky, but I think overall it's a nice little practice piece, so that for you guys to have a go at home. I suppose tell you what we're going to do. We're going to let's get a rubber. Let's just knock back a little bit here, like that. Let's add a little bit of highlight. Make it look like it's made out of plastic. You know what we did with the rendering technique? Yeah. Let's just get a little highlight in there. Yes, that's the spirit. There's a bit of rendering. Lovely. And all I'm using is a little rubber, little eraser, just erasing parts, bit of highlight. There we go. Looking at it from a different distance. Okay, and there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. There's our three-dimensional letters. Let's head back to home base and finish off. Oh, right. So, what have we learned in today's session? Well, hopefully you've taken away the oblique drawing style and that 45-degree angle that we have to include to make objects look three-dimensional. So it's a great way of practicing that 3D skill, especially using your own surname or your first name even. And you can practice this and add the shadows and maybe play about with textures and shadows and shade and have a good old time of it. But do practice at home. Your challenge is to create your own 3D version of your surname and hopefully apply like a plastic, wood, glass texture maybe. Ooh, that'll be hard. But have a go at home. Practice, practice, practice. And there you go. That's your challenge. Until the next one, stay safe so you don't miss one of our videos. Like always, don't forget to subscribe. And until the next one, stay safe. Bye now.